So today we're talking about neighborhoods that I think you should avoid if you plan on buying a house in Chesapeake for investment purposes in 2022, and we're starting right now. Hey, my name is Sam Sansalone, and I'm a real estate agent in the Hampton Roads area that goes from Virginia Beach through Chesapeake all the way up to Williamsburg, and I do videos every week about living and moving to this area, and I'm very careful about trying to help people relocate here if you have never been here before, so I can give you a full context of what this area is like, and that's what I'm trying to talk to you about today, which is the areas I would be very concerned about if you're planning to live in Chesapeake, places that to buy for investment purposes moving forward, and I specify that because I can't tell you where to live specifically, but there are some spots I'm concerned about, and I'm going to tell you why. So first of all, I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see me kind of talk through these areas on the map so you can see where they are. So the first neighborhood I want to talk about is Riverwalk. So where is Riverwalk? So if you look on the map again, right in the kind of the south central section, you'll see a lot of areas that you've heard about. Grassfield possibly, Hickory possibly, Great Bridge. Just north of all these spots is this neighborhood, an area in the Oscar Smith High School District called Riverwalk. Riverwalk is, so first of all, I used to live in Riverwalk, and I really liked it. And the area itself has a lot of different neighborhood styles in it. So small condos, 1 or 2 bedroom. You got condos with garages. You've got single family houses, townhouses without condo fees, big houses on the water. I've told people before when I lived there, you could literally be born in Riverwalk and then grow up and then retire, spend your whole life in the Riverwalk neighborhoods, but then keep moving in the neighborhood because it's so big and it's got so many different types of options in it. So if you look here, you have the Elizabeth River right here. Well, along that water there are some houses in here, and these are massive houses, real nice houses, real nice, like real secluded. You know, you've got big 25, 35, 40, 4,000 plus square foot houses in these back sections. And then if you go closer, you have condos. So I used to live in the condo neighborhood called Inlet Key right here. This was the condo I used to live in 2000. I bought this house in 2006. Again, these are talking like low 200s right now. Back, and I bought this 2006 for like 186. And also the condo association and HOAs. You have several neighborhoods that have condo fees, but then there are some that just have an HOA, and the HOA has a tennis court, has tennis courts, swimming pool, community center, and also next to it, if you don't have a yard, there's a massive, big, like almost like a football size field, like a random rec field that you can use as well. So why am I saying this is a place to be concerned about? Well, number one is that it is close to Oscar Smith High School, so it's the proximity. The noise, so I used to live in Inlet Key right here. The noise at Oscar Smith, I could hear the marching bands on Friday nights, and there's traffic going up along Great Bridge Boulevard during that time and during school times, like and pick up and drop off times. That's number one, and you can only get in and out along Great Bridge Boulevard. But also on top of that, flood insurance is becoming a thing. I paid flood insurance for Inlet Key over here. There was some issues with that, but it wasn't a huge deal. I could see it becoming a little bit worse over time, and so as flood insurance premiums might go up, you might see the values starting to sag a bit compared to other places because you're paying for that flood insurance, which does factor into someone's payment. That's the next thing. The third thing is that it is in an area that, in the area of Riverwalk itself, it's great, but if you leave the neighborhood, you'll notice a distinct difference in what it feels like outside of there. So Great Bridge Boulevard, if you get towards the interstates, which again, it's super convenient because you can get all across the area quickly, but it feels kind of run down to me in some places, and especially if you go a little bit further north, you might see some just difference in environment, and as you drive this way as well, you'll notice a big change as you go from one side of Great Bridge Boulevard to the other, and then comparing that to what it feels like in Riverwalk itself, it's just totally different, and I would just be aware of that because you're not buying a neighborhood that's in an area that is all the same. It is very different, and it can change, and you'll notice, check the house prices in the areas around it so you can kind of get another perspective of what it feels like in that area. That's number one. Number two, I want to shift my attention over to Culpepper Landing, which is on the southwestern section of Chesapeake, which is over here near 64 and Route 17, George Washington Highway. Culpepper Landing is here right here. This whole neighborhood right here, all these streets in here, this is all Culpepper Landing. And it's great. I love it in here for the style of houses that it has. Some of those newer, like the craftsman style, so it has that older feel, but also the open floor plans that, you know, it's hard to find that in other places for a more affordable price. These are priced anywhere from like the 4s, 5s, and 6s for the most part, but you know, for what you're getting, it's actually for a pretty good value if you're looking for a house that size. Now, there are some specific drawbacks, and one of which is exactly where it is. Like, it's right off of this Route 17 here, near the Great Dismal Swamp, this massive piece of land that is, it's like desolate, you know, it's cool, you're close to that, but the reason I'm mentioning this is because the roads that align next to Culpepper Landing are, you know, they converge right here near that neighborhood. And so this bridge, see this bridge right here? This bridge is literally one lane going both directions, and if you can imagine all of these streets on the west side of the bridge, and all the streets on the east side, Moses Grandy, you got Cedar Road that connects here. You've got also Old Mill, George Washington Highway. These are all pretty busy roads, all converging right here. So if you have to go across from one side to the other, it can back up a lot. So just be very aware of that, because the way you get out of the neighborhood has to be going towards this direction. So just be careful about the commute times and when you're leaving your house and coming back, and it might influence how long it takes and your whole living experience. Number 2 is the flooding situation. So you see these little lakes here, not as big of a deal. You're close to water levels though, near the river. And so as those water levels have risen, you'll see, look online, you'll see some flooding issues in Culpepper Landing in very specific spots. And I'm a little bit concerned about that bleeding into other parts of the area or the neighborhood, and if it does require more flood insurance in the future, that flood insurance can also affect prices as well, and then if that happens, then the prices could sag a little bit. And so I'm not saying it's everywhere in the neighborhood, but I would definitely talk to neighbors and find out if there's a house that you want to live in the neighborhood. Check and see, you know, like, did they have any flooding recently? If so, how bad was it? Just find out what their definitions of flooding is. That's important too. So that's number 2. I'd be very aware. It does have a lot of positives, but just be careful about where you're gonna get a house in that area. Now, number 3 is Goose Creek. We're shifting over to Western Branch, and this over near the kind of like close to Western Branch. It's in the Western Branch High School District, which is one of the benefits to being here, and I think that it can be appealing if you're looking online for houses. But right here, you're gonna see this little small neighborhood in the back corner of this little this kind of like cul-de-sac sort of neighborhood spot close to Elizabeth River. And it's off of Route 460, which is Airline Boulevard. And again, easy access to things in some regards. The thing I want to talk to you about is these are condos. And so they're detached condos. Number 2 is the drive from the main road of Airline Boulevard to the neighborhood in the back. It's completely different. It's a different neighborhood from the front to the back. And if you drive through there, you'll see what I'm talking about. And you can't see that on like Zillow or Redfin, because all you'll see is the house itself. And so you can't get a full picture of what it's like back in this area. So I would definitely suggest, if you talk to an agent, have them do some drive-throughs of street views all through the neighborhoods so you can see what it's like in the general area. The next thing I want to mention is when these houses were built. These houses were built in like the 2007, 8, 9 period. We have a lot of open floor plans, like nice neighborhood, nice houses. But the drawback here is when they were built, and I'm starting to see that, you know, as you get closer to that 15-year mark in construction, you're buying a house that you think is new or feels newer, and you don't want that maintenance. Well, HVACs are about to, you know, start going out. You got water heaters that are going to start going bad. It's getting to the point to where those higher cost style repairs are getting close to needing to be done. And if you think you're buying this house that, granted, is in the low 300s minus the condo fee, you know, seems affordable, but you're gonna start paying more out of the gate just to get the house livable, because you might need a new HVAC system, for example. Now, the next one we're gonna talk about is a pretty in-demand school district, Grassfield. And so this can be a very attractive spot for people that want water access. But be aware, it's called Inland Colony. And so where is Inland Colony? So if you go back out, zoom out, so Grassfield is in this kind of the south central section here. But if you look at where, you see Bells Mill Park, well, this whole like cul-de-sac area is in this general area called Bells Mill. This is Bells Mill Road right here. But as you get closer to the back of this neighborhood, like this is kind of feels like country in a sense, but you have smaller, like newer neighborhoods built in here. It's a nice part of town. I have some friends that live back here. But as you go further back, Right here, Bells Mill turns into Deepwater Drive. This area is called Inland Colony. Now, this area, if you look online, again, it's just partly about what you see online. Online, you'll see awesome houses, look cool, but it's on water because you have water access to the Elizabeth River. And see where the Elizabeth River goes. It goes all the way up to literally towards the ocean. Like it empties out into downtown Norfolk, into the bay, and into the ocean. So you have cool access to water. What's the problem, Sam? Well, flood insurance here can be sky high. These houses can be go anywhere from like the 4s, 5s, and 6s, sometimes more, depends on the size of the house, but mostly in that range. They could be more if it weren't for the flood insurance premiums, to me, in my opinion. There are some premiums in here that can be over $2,000 a year, plus I've seen it higher than that, much higher. But that's $200–300 a month in some of those houses near the water, and that can be the equivalent of like almost $50,000 of mortgage. And so that's part of why you're seeing, it looks like it's a great deal online. Well, that's probably because the payments for the houses have to factor in flood insurance, and with that, the payments actually are higher, so the price of the house actually can feel a little bit deceiving for what you're getting. But these houses are nice. You can get like 3-4 bedrooms. Like they're nice houses you can grow and develop in for a long time. But just be very aware that as you leave Bells Mill Road, and there are some spots around Bells Mill that can also still flood as well. And check online. There are a couple of stories about Bells Mill flooding issues in the past. But as you drive in this back corner, even this road, I think there's an article talking about this actual corner of Bells Mill and Deepwater having been blocked in the past. So it's because this is again one way in, one way out. I'm not a big fan of that kind of living if you're in a spot that can flood. So just be aware of that. Otherwise, you're in the Grassville School District. I like that. It's not all negative here, but just be aware of the flooding situation there. Now, one more neighborhood I want to talk about. This neighborhood is called Summer Park, or you'll see often Parkview online as well. You might see that neighborhood pop up quite a bit. But where is it? So it's right off of Cedar Road. Again, it's actually somewhat close to other areas we've talked about near Culpepper Landing. It comes off of Moses Grandy Trail, and you take this one road, it takes you all the way back, Millville Road, back into this whole section here. It's just rows and rows of now pretty new houses. Granted, great school district. It's one of the best in the entire area, Grassfield, and so this is one of the reasons why it has become popular. It also has some awesome designed houses. It was an area that used to be mostly just old houses, kind of random sized lots. This is an old neighborhood. But then over time, certain builders bought lots in there and took those older lots and turned them into these new houses. And so now you have a neighborhood that is almost like, it feels like it's full of a lot of new houses. And one of which, Stephen Alexander Homes, an awesome builder. I love that builder. They did a lot of developing in here. And basically without Stephen Alexander Homes, I don't know if this neighborhood would be what it is right now. What's the problem, Sam? The problem is partly flooding and the total general feel of the neighborhood. You're right near New Mill Creek, and you'll see that if you look on the flood maps, you'll see this whole section needs flood insurance all through, especially on the eastern side, and so most of it does require it. So it does factor into what you might be paying for the house. That is one thing. Number two is they've done a great job of making the neighborhood feel like it's a new neighborhood because there are so many new houses in there. That being said, if you're not from here, you're from a different area, and you see the houses here online, you might start wondering or thinking that it's all new. It's not all new. And so I would just, something to tell you just to be aware of is that when you see the houses online, definitely try and do street views or talk to neighbors or talk to your agent to make sure you know like what's around there, just because you'll see like, new, older house, like kind of just still kind of a little bit scattered. If that bothers you, then this might not be the right neighborhood for you. But that being said, not as big of a deal for me. It's mainly the flood insurance and how close you are to the river. I don't necessarily think it's as big of a deal as the others I've talked about, but something to be aware of if you do look in the neighborhood, because it's such an interesting neighborhood to look at online. That's why I wanted to tell you about it. So that's the thing about Chesapeake, is you'll notice a lot of areas that are awesome near areas that are like maybe questionable to you, or in areas that might have some flood insurance in very specific spots. So if you have any questions about living in Chesapeake or other areas in Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach, throughout Williamsburg, please let me know. I've got my contact information in the description. You can reach out to me at any time, and I will do whatever I can to help you relocate to this area. And I will see you on the next video.